Earlier with code, it was deterministic, more rule-based. You know what the code did. But then with AI, it's a black box to us as well. We have to figure out another way to evaluate the surface. We've been figuring out how do we use AI in the product. The issue here is how do we know what we are building will work correctly. We've started building what we call the Gen AI evaluation platform. If it's a real-time interaction, you keep it lightweight. You need smaller models tuned very specifically for that. Then we also have an offline workflow, which uses more prompts, more metrics, bigger models.
Rohit is a staff software engineer at Airbnb, has been there for the last 7.5 years.
I've been working at Airbnb. More recently, of those years, I have been on the search and ML infra org. 0 to 1 is easy now, but the 1 to N, which is the scaling part, I think we still haven't figured that out. You still need humans for that.
The Data Engineering Show is brought to you by Firebolt, the cloud data warehouse for AI apps and low latency analytics. Get your free credits and start your trial at firebolt.io.
All right. Hello and welcome everyone back to the Data Engineering Show. Today, I'm super happy to have Rohit Girme on. Rohit is a staff software engineer at Airbnb, has been there for the last about 7.5 years. Welcome to the show. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell the listeners what you're working on?
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Benjamin. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here and share what I've learned till now. The last, as you said, 7.5 years, I've been working at Airbnb as a staff software engineer. More recently, of those years, I have been on the search and ML infra org. More recently, among those 7.5 years, been figuring out how do we do evaluation in this world where everyone's using AI. How do we get the right data? Is the data good? What is the definition of a golden set, evaluation set, and so on and so forth.
Okay, very cool. Nice. So maybe take me through some of the projects you're working on at the moment, like what's top of mind?
Yeah, so as I said, for the last year and a half, as some of the GPT models and Claude and DeepSeek have taken off, we've been figuring out how do we use AI in the product in general, and you can see this in the Airbnb earnings call and everywhere about how we are using AI. But I think the issue here is how do we know what we are building will work correctly? Is it going to produce the right results? So that's why we've started building what we call the Gen AI evaluation platform around, hey, if someone comes to us saying, hey, I'm integrating this LLM in our app or in our product surface. It could be using a third-party one or a fine-tuned open source one. How do I make sure, what's the evaluation story look like? Because earlier with code, it was deterministic, more rule-based. You know what the code did, or at least most of the time. And then you wrote these unit tests around the code to make sure it worked the way it did. But then with AI, it's a black box to us as well, right? We don't know how it's working underneath. We are not the owners of the code inside it. So we have to figure out another way to kind of evaluate the surface.
Right. Okay. So take us through the tech stack when you run these evals, right? Kind of how does it work under the hood? What systems do you use for it? Do you self-host it? Do you use services? Would love to understand that better.
Yeah, so this is very similar to what every other company is doing, but very, I guess, tailored for Airbnb. So we use Python for all of our services and to build all of the code and to build the framework itself. But then we reach out to either Azure, AWS for our hosted LLMs, and then internally we use some of the open source inference frameworks. Like VLLM I think is the most popular one. So that's the hosting part. And then we have several layers before that. Like we have a gateway to talk to all of these services. We have our own serving infra built on top of Kubernetes to run this VLLM-based infra or inference engines. And then on top of that is this platform that evaluation platform that we build. And it's configurable in a DAG sort of way. So if you know Airflow, which came out of Airbnb, you can create this DAG saying like, hey, these are all my steps, and then go run it.
Okay, take us through a concrete example maybe of like a product feature in Airbnb that's infused with AI, and then how it connects to that eval platform and how data ends up there.
Yeah, so I think one example that's already out there is the CS customer support bot, where the earlier issue was when users raise a customer bug, it goes to the human support agent. They figure out what's the policy, how do we resolve it. So there was some friction there, and to make it easy, we introduced an LLM layer on top of the customer agent. So when people reach out, they hit the customer bot, support bot, and then if the bot cannot answer the question, then it's pushed on to a human. But this interaction between the customer and the bot, we need to make sure it's functioning as necessary. So that's use case for evaluation.
Right. Okay. And then that ends up in your eval step, right? Like how does a customer support interaction like that end up mapping to like an Airflow DAG basically?
Yeah. So I think there's different steps in the evaluation, right? Like first is when you actually define these, what we call virtual judges, because they are replacing human judges, you need a dev test cycle similar to how your software engineering flow is. So you have a dev test cycle where let's say you tune your prompt and figure out what's the best way to identify some issues. And we found out that having one giant VJ or giant prompt doing everything doesn't work. So we then figured out, hey, we need to split it out into multiple ones, each focusing on one specific metric. Like, is the data retrieved for this policy even make sense?
Right.
So content relevance could be one judge. The other is, hey, given this customer issue and this policy, does the output of the bot rely on just this, or it's just hallucinating and coming up with some random stuff? So that's one metric. And so on and so forth. So we build a bunch of these around that. So once you have that tune, then that's where the framework or platform comes in. It helps you tune the prompt, test it against some data. And then once you have that ready, then you need to plumb it into a larger workflow where, hey, this is my incoming conversation. Now run these 5 judges in parallel or in some sequence. If it's in sequence, maybe we filter out. It's more like an if-else kind of way. Like, hey, if the first VJ says something's going wrong, then we run another one to make sure what's the actual issue, then another one to figure out what is the actual issue. So they could be in sequence, they could be in parallel.
Gotcha. But that then also runs during my support interaction, basically. So if I have support interaction with the Airbnb chatbot, it might in the background call 5 LLMs or agents that generate different responses. And then there's this like agent-driven judge that decides which one I see, or all of this is offline.
Yeah, so I think there's, again, so in the flow of evaluation, you start with dev test, you tune your prompt. Next step is figuring out what the right workflow is. You test that in isolation. And then as part of that step, maybe human evaluation is also needed, right? Like, so for first, the volume is handled by the LLMs, then they filter it down and then they are uploaded to humans. That's the workflow. But then where you run it is also important, right? You have to run it as part of when the interaction is actually happening. And then as a follow-up, what we call passively monitor these conversations, because in real time, you cannot have the customer wait for several seconds until your LLM figures out, is this a problem or not? So the kind of model used, the kind of prompts used also differ. So if it's a real-time interaction, you keep it lightweight, you keep it sub-millisecond or sub-second latency. So you have to adjust your models accordingly. You need smaller models with smaller parameters tuned very specifically for that. And this happens in real time. You check if it's not outputting some garbage, it's adhering to the brand values and what the company stands for, while also trying to solve the problem. And then another step is this is real time. But then we also have an offline workflow, which then uses maybe more prompts, more metrics, bigger models to kind of figure out, hey, something did happen, now how do we fix it?
Awesome. Okay, that's interesting. Nice. So if you look ahead in the next couple of months, right? Like what's on your roadmap that you're really excited about? What's a big area of focus to improve for you and the team right now?
Yeah, so good question. So I think first of all, there's some incremental or enhancements that we want to make and improve the surface areas that touch or that use AI, starting from like different areas in the product. The first one was customer support. Maybe then it's in the search experience. Maybe it's in the booking experience. So all these flows need to be updated. But then going ahead, the other thing is also how do we make it very easy and fast for users to experiment and onboard these LLMs, right? Because as our CEO says, we need to move at the pace of AI. You can't use your traditional slow moving process. Everything needs to be very quick. So we are figuring out ways to make this faster, which could mean improving the tooling, improving how people use the tools, everything in the process, like are the evaluations running faster? How do we adjust? Let's say you have a certain bandwidth being assigned by Azure. Are we using the entire bandwidth? Are we using all the tokens available? Are we getting rate limited? How do we solve that? To all the way to, do we have the right tooling for, let's say, observability? Are we getting the right traces back from the system? Then once we have the traces, are we using those traces then to build the right product? So that's the cycle. You build something, output traces, the traces go back into your product. So I think that's the entire gamut that we are looking at.
Interesting. Cool. Nice. So maybe shifting gears a bit, right? Is like, this is a very, let's say, AI forward part of your product at the end of the day. How do you build that leveraging AI, right? Like take us through your actually like kind of like a software engineering life cycle. Like what tools do you use to build, test? How's that going? What's working well? What's not working well?
I think that's a great question, very relevant in today, right? Because I think no one's denying AI slop. It's there. Maybe it's here to stay. I think what I feel or what I see is humans should be the orchestrators of these tools and not just hand off everything to these tools. I think that's the best use case right now. So the way I personally use it is, because I have all the context, I will kind of split the problem into smaller chunks and then give enough context, let's say, to these tools, including, let's say, Cloud Code or Codex, and then solve small problems. And then I will do the part of combining everything together instead of just handing off the whole problem to the LLM and then having it figure out. Most of the times what I've seen is if we do that, which is handing off everything, then it will make a lot of assumptions. It doesn't know the code enough because, again, context is limited. Because even I know it's like millions of tokens as context. But if you look at, I think this works great when you are building from 0 to 1 because there is nothing there, so there's no context and you can build cleanly. But in companies where you have, I don't know, millions or billions of lines of code, it's not enough. And that's where I think we as humans come into play. Like you have to break down the problem and then use it as a tool.
Makes sense. How do you learn as a team? Let's say like you figure out the specific workflow where Cloud Code works great, right? Like it's kind of like, how does organizational learning basically work in this world around how to kind of best leverage these tools, how to become better and better?
Yeah, I think that's relevant again. I think we start with the age-old way of surveys. We survey developer experience and figure out what needs to be improved. But I think one thing we have seen is documentation has become even more relevant now. Earlier, humans had a lot of tribal knowledge, like one person who's been there for like 10, 15 years knows everything about the code. But that doesn't scale, right? Because he's one person. Now, if it's an LLM, they need to know everything so everyone can kind of scale up. So I think documentation is an important way we are going ahead. How to format the doc so that agents can use that content better There's different formats. I think diet axis is one very popular one. Documentation is one aspect. The other is everyone's using LLM, right? Like, how do you measure productivity in LLMs, right? One way is like, hey, is everyone using LLMs? Is everyone using, how many tokens are they using? But I think that's not enough. You need to figure out are they building something on top? So I think measuring, we are adding a lot of scaffolding or instrumentation around these calls. Like, hey, if someone uses LLM and it outputs something, was that helpful or not? I think that's one way to figure out if it's helping or not. And I think lastly, it's also about attitude or the way of thinking. Earlier, what we have done is we try to solve a problem, then if we are stuck, then we go search on using some search engine or look at docs, right? But I think that needs probably to flip if you want to move fast, is you get all your information using AI or using the LLM, you process that, then you break down the problem, and then you solve it in chunks. So I think that's like a 180-degree shift from the earlier approach, which I think is helping us.
Super interesting. Nice. Cool. So awesome. Like, unrelated to your specific roadmap, maybe to kind of close out today's episode, is like, it feels like engineering is changing so much right now in general. And it's like a very exciting time to build, but it's also crazy to actually kind of think about how the future of engineering looks, right? And kind of like how much the world will change and kind of like how we'll build half a year from now. It's like, maybe what are you excited about, and kind of what do you hope will actually improve in terms of our development workflows as we kind of go throughout the years and the models get better and the workflows get better? Is kind of, not necessarily related to Airbnb, actually.
So I think I was reading this article which talked about some survey about what general population feels about AI. In some countries, it's very positive. In some countries, it's very negative. Maybe that's how the narrative is being conveyed. Like, some companies in the States have this dystopian view of, we will replace 50% of the programmers with AI. Maybe that does happen. I don't know. Maybe that's a marketing technique to bump their valuation. I don't know. What excites me is there's actual value in this, right? I've seen myself how I have supercharged my workflow, day-to-day workflow, either at work or at home, where access to information is so easy. I don't have to read 10 websites to get what I want. So text summarization, information summarization, or information democratization is much easier with LLMs. So I see that being helpful, and that may evolve. And the second is, there's always going to be blind spots for every person, and that's why we work in teams. But I think with AI, that will become even faster, because you have this very short cycle of you talking to the AI instead of you talking to 5 humans in a team. So I think there will be a faster cycle there, which would, I think, help in this whole software development process. But then when you put all of these together, I think shipping products or shipping features would become even faster. Where earlier we took, I don't know, if you were following the waterfall model, it took, I don't know, weeks or months to go from planning to feature. Now it will be maybe days. And I think lastly, it's the way internet democratized information. I think with LLMs, it's capability, I guess, that would be democratized. So if you have a good idea, you can build it very quickly. But there's a caveat, right? Like 0 to 1 is easy now. But the 1 to n, which is the scaling part, I think we still haven't figured that out. You still need humans for that.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was great having you. And excited to follow your work at Airbnb.
Thanks, Ben. Great chatting with you. Hopefully this was helpful to everyone.
Definitely.
The Data Engineering Show is brought to you by Firebolt, the cloud data warehouse for AI apps and low latency analytics. Get your free credits and start your trial at firebolt.io.